Once you start doing things that you know you're not the best at, you start believing that all the things you're good at aren't as good as you think they are. But in reality, that's your quality. If you don't have the bravery to go out and do those things and take those risks as a keeper and just like stay focused on what you're good at and really apply it to 100% and be brave enough to do that, then no one's really going to look at you.
What do you need to be like in training as a mindset to be a successful goalkeeper?
I think the biggest thing is has to be bravery.
How do you explain like the level of junior college and why players should think about JUCO instead of going straight to the NCAA?
If you're able to do good right off the bat in junior college and get those minutes in and really perform, then it's a great opportunity to then exceed what you first even expected.
How do you go from that, not starting, not playing, to playing every minute, getting drafted? What was your mindset like? How did you deal with that?
How consistent can you be the whole time you're down for that moment where you get that window, that opportunity to be just so much better than everyone else? And I think that's what helped me get through it, is just knowing that deep down inside, I'm going to do everything in my power to be ready and be prepared for that opportunity instead of just being bummed out on the fact that I'm currently not playing.
Jass, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I think the best piece of advice I've ever gotten is to take things day by day and treat each day with the maximum effort, because in that way it's like you get a good perspective on raising your standards each day. You know, if you take the challenge of the day alone and you push yourself to like the maximum of your capacity, then your standard will always raise. So even on your worst day and when you're not feeling at your best, you're not feeling your sharpest, your worst day will also get better, you know? So I think that's like one of the best things that I've learned.
Good. Good. Nice little intro there. So, yeah, everyone, welcome to the pod. Today we're on Zoom. So I'm with my good friend Jass. Jass currently is a goalkeeper for Forge, in the Canadian Premier League. We played together for a couple of years in New Hampshire, at University of New Hampshire. Jass has a really interesting story. So he's played abroad. He's from Dubai. I know he's played in France. He's played in the UK. He's obviously played in the NCAA. He's also played at the junior college level. So he has an interesting story, interesting pathway. And I think Jass has got a really good perspective on football. He's someone that kind of had a lot of adversity that he had to get over to get to make it to the pros, and he's someone who's done it. He's been there, he's done it, and he's playing as a professional soccer player now. So Jass, for those people that are listening to this that see you as a professional footballer, they see all the glory and all the nice things. What's your journey been like? How have you come from where you originally came from to get to that point? What's your story?
So it's obviously not the usual. So I grew up in Dubai, and obviously the football infrastructure in Dubai now compared to then is a completely different story. But growing up there was no real path to being a pro. That opportunity always came like overseas, and then obviously that takes a lot of luck, and the skill gap between the Middle East back then was even bigger than it is now. But yeah, I got the opportunity to go to France. So luckily, the coach that we had in Dubai he was with us for a couple of months, and he was a former pro for Nantes in Liga, and he saw me play, got in contact with his agent, and then they started sending me around for trials. I trialed at Chelsea first, just to get a look at the standard of one of the best academies in the world. I was miles off it. Got a trial to FC Nantes, did really well there, but just couldn't end up getting the move there. And yeah, then I had Lille, so LOSC in Ligue 1 as well. That didn't go through either. And then I got an opportunity to be at a Ligue 2 academy called Stade Lavallois. I spent 2 years there. So I played my U19 years there, did preseason with the first team, got released. So after that, went to Sparta Prague, and I had already finished high school at that time. So I'd done my baccalaureate, like French high school. So yeah, I spent almost a season at Sparta Prague with the 23s. Contract offer came in, nothing guaranteed in the sense of game time, anything. And at my age, I was 18, 19, I was like 19, like just turned 19 at that point. And at that age, you've got to play games. So the money and the age and the circumstances of where I'm at where I was at Sparta Prague was not ideal. And then came college. So I got in contact with an agency to put me into college, and I got offers from Syracuse, Boston College. I was in talks with a few other schools. Can't really remember, but yeah, I'd committed to Syracuse. Did not have the NCAA requirements, and then had to go to JUCO, and then I went to Iowa Western, did 2 years there, and then I had decommitted from Syracuse and gone to UNH. So it was a roller coaster, and then obviously spent my time there with you. Had some fantastic seasons. Got drafted to LAFC. A whole other bunch of like welcoming to the pro world, humbling moments, and yeah, now I'm in the Canadian Premier League. It's my second season here at Forge, and it's been good, man. So it's
So for someone listening to that, that's thinking, wow, he went from Dubai. How old were you when you went abroad?
I was so my first trials were the age of 16.
So for a player listening to this, that's like, how do you get from Dubai to Europe at 16? Did you have an agent? Did you just know someone? Like to go and train with Chelsea is massive. So like how do you go from like Chelsea to Prague to Nantes? Like how are you doing all of this?
So it was quite interesting. So the coach that was like the academy I was in Dubai was called the club, and it was basically our high school PE teacher was like a football fanatic. He knew about football. He played in France, like I don't know what level, but he played in France, and he had like his own kind of little academy in Dubai. And so just based off of the French community in Dubai, I just got extremely lucky. Like it was no reaching out to people, no like it was literally just kind of out of the blue. So Stéphane Ziani was the coach that came in, and he played for Nantes in Ligue 1, and his son was also in our academy, and he was younger. And I remember it was like we were playing a possession game, and I didn't have my gloves on. And when I was younger, I used to play as a striker, and I was just always telling myself like I need to stay sharp on the ball because that's what football is moving into for my position as a goalkeeper. And during a possession game, I was just popping it around. And this was like, I think the third session that Stefan was like coaching us for. And he pulled the head of the academy, his name is Fred, and he pulled him aside and he goes, "This kid's like decent, like he can move it." And Fred told him that like, yeah, that's the keeper we've got. So after that, we kept having some games, some training sessions, and he actually contacted his former agent. So when he was a pro, his agent, like he got in touch with his agent and he told him, "You have to come down and see this kid." So I met him in person. He watched me train, like once or twice. And after that, we had a meeting with my dad. So like we went to like a little cafe or whatever, and it was just me, my coach, and my dad and the agent. And he said, "Listen, I'm gonna get in contact with people. I'm gonna reach out into Europe and see what we can do to put you up in the standard and see like if anyone just bites." And so he put my name out there, got some trials out, and the first one was Chelsea FC, and he told me, "Listen, they're willing to do it to see how high your ceiling could be." He was like, "But there's no expectation."
So what types of players were you training with there?
Man, it was absolutely ridiculous. So I'm born in 99, so the generation varies between like 2000 and like 98. Like that's usually the gaps they train it. So the 2000 and 99s weren't really in at that time. I think they had like a tournament abroad or something. So I was training with the guys above my age. So at that time, it was when Chelsea won the Youth League and the Youth FA Cup. And I remember it like it was yesterday. There's Tammy Abraham, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Dominic Solanke, Charlie Musonda, just a bunch of absolute like just ballers, bro.
And
Like just all
how do you save those shots? Like what are you doing?
I I got toasted. I just it was funny because at that point I had never played, I hadn't even played on like a wet pitch, you know what I mean? Like a proper wet pitch, like so I was just getting peppered. And in the finishing drills, the quality was so high that I remember the keeper coach looked at me, he goes, so the oldest keeper on the 23s, he was also getting absolutely bashed in the finishing. And the keeper coach pulled me aside and goes, "Listen, he's been here for years and he's getting demolished in finishing." He's like, there's no expectation in some of these drills. So that's when I realized that like, yo, the standard is so high that when when the opposition has, as a keeper, when like the opposition has no defenders to go up against, it's just guaranteed
So,
goals.
so what's your advice for players when they're trialing? Because you might have been in that environment and been like, wow, I'm getting peppered. I'm never going to be a pro. Like these guys are so far ahead of me, negative be down. My first question is, how do you prepare? How do you prepare going into that? And then the second question is, how do you deal with that if you're clearly not at the level?
It's tough when you realize you're not at the level only when you're like really couple of days in and you're just still not quite finding your feet. I think that's like not finding your feet, but like your feet kind of don't belong there, you know, you're just a bit off it. Because there were days where I felt good, but it wasn't like you're still, just underneath that ceiling. And I think the best advice, especially having gone on trials a few times, is if you know deep down inside you're not really making a difference and you're not exceeding your own expectations, is just to stick to what you know, So it's like for me as a keeper, yeah, my shot stopping is my best ability. But if I'm trying to play out the back too much, knowing that at the time that wasn't like my bread and butter, it was something I was good at, but I wasn't phenomenal at. I'm not going to start demanding the ball in a small sided to try and break two lines. It's just I'm going to stick to what I know, play simple, and just make the saves that I have to.
What's your advice for
Like,
goalkeepers? What's your advice for goalkeepers? Because for a field player, if you're going to a trial, you might be trialing as a forward. There's two, three
yeah,
forwards in the squad. You can get minutes coming on for 20 minutes. Same if you're a winger. Maybe it's difficult as a centre back, but you can still kind of get minutes wherever for subs and whatever. If you're a goalkeeper and you're going into a trial, or maybe it's just your mindset anyway, even in training today, like you don't want to give the next guy your jersey. How do you kind of, as a keeper, what do you need to be like in training as a mindset to be a successful goalkeeper?
I think the biggest thing is has to be bravery. Like it has to be bravery. It's something you're in a position that you can't shy away from anything. It sounds a bit rough, but the truth is like if you're a keeper on trial, no matter where you are, what level you are, if you're on a first team trial, second team trial, whatever it is, you've got to be brave. You have to put a voice out. You don't have to overdo it. You just have to feel like you're in your own skin and this is the team that you're already playing for. Because if you start being shy, then the guys in front of you don't really trust you. You're not communicating well. Then you're overthinking about whether you should talk more, and then you're not even focused on playing football anymore. And the reason I use bravery is because and a lot of times it's like, and you see this happen just in just day-to-day training at the higher level. It's like a striker's coming at you one-on-one, you have to go in, and in your head you're like, oh, this guy's the star player, I don't want to go in and bash him. But you're also looking for an opportunity. If you make that save, it puts you on the shop window to go like the coaches go like, yo, he can make saves in these moments. We'll take a gamble. But if you don't have the bravery to go out and do those things and take those risks as a keeper and just like stay focused on what you're good at and really apply it to 100% and be brave enough to do that, then no one's really going to look at you. It's like, I mean, you've played in front of me in the back line. It's like if I go completely mute one game, you'll probably turn around and go, why on earth is this guy not talking? Like
Yeah.
this is just this dead behind.
So, so,
I think
so,
it's bravery and communication for sure. Like
so how do you go from trialing at Chelsea and in Europe to then wanting to go to America? Was it like, oh, I really want to focus on my academics? Was it like, oh, I've heard it's easy in America. I'm fed up of being in Europe. Like, what was the transition from Europe to NCAA?
it was opportunity. Honestly, it was hard to find a club to sign for where the circumstances were ideal for me to develop. And I had spoken with my dad and my older brother, especially my dad, and he was like, "Listen, you can perform in college, get a degree, do well in class, and you can still compete. And if you're really that good, that was the challenge like my father put up to me, and he obviously believes in me. He said, and if you're really that good and you can be one of the best in the country, then you will have an opportunity to get drafted, and that won't go unnoticed. And so that was the challenge I put for myself. And once I went to the States, that's how the journey began. But yeah, it was mostly off circumstance, and honestly, I think it's probably the best decision I ever made instead of just fighting against the wall in Europe in the especially at the goalkeeping position that's so like scarce, is
Mhm.
once you're out of an academy or something like that, it's a position that's hard to dive back into another club and people take a chance on you.
So for a lot of the audience listening to this, like as young American or even Canadian footballers that are wanting to play in college, maybe they're a goalkeeper, right? And this is actually true for a lot of goalkeepers, even field players. If you want to have a successful football career, you need to play consistently, get minutes, right? Like, for example, maybe if you went straight to Syracuse or straight to New Hampshire, you would have needed 1 or 2 years to, mature physically, mature tactically, get to know the game. So you went to junior college. I'm pretty sure you started every game, played every minute of every game. For
Yeah.
someone that's listening to this that thinks, damn, he really went from JUCO to getting drafted to now being a pro. How do you explain like the level of junior college and why players should think about JUCO instead of going straight to the NCAA?
Because what's good about junior college is if you're able to play right off the bat and display your talent, it's like I said, this is just the game of football in general, and everyone can agree with this, is if you perform, no matter what the level of junior college is, if you go to a good junior college program and you outperform and perform to that high standard on your own, people in the Division One and just college level, D2, D1, D2, D3, and even NAIA, they're gonna take a look at you because you're putting up the numbers you have to, you're putting up the performances you have to, and the reality of it is word goes around in the college coach community, When I was being recruited out of JUCO, it was quite interesting because the one of the coaches at James Madison University that was recruiting me used to play for the JUCO I played for. And he was telling me like, yeah, I'm a former Reaver, like I played at Iowa Western. Coach Mike has told me brilliant things. We've taken a look at you, we like you. And then you hear the same thing, and it's Creighton as well is trying to recruit me, and UNH trying to recruit me, and they're all like, "Where are you at in negotiations with scholarships and opportunity in those schools so that we can?" So it's like the network is quite small because once one person tries to get you in and you've attracted like that market, you start becoming more wanted. So if you're able to do good right off the bat in junior college and get those minutes in and really perform, then it's a great opportunity to then exceed what you first even expected,
And what was the difference in level between Iowa Western and UNH? Because obviously there's a big gap between JUCOs, right? Like you have your top JUCOs, which send guys consistently to Division One, Division Two, send guys pro, and then you have obviously the bad stereotype of JUCO is like when you think about JUCO, you think about the bottom ones where the pitch isn't great, the players aren't great, and you see some results like 10-0. But then obviously you go to New Hampshire, a Division One school, and maybe it's a higher level. Well, that's the stereotype. So what how from your experience playing junior college and also playing Division One, what's the difference between JUCO and Division One?
Well, obviously the infrastructures and everything is very different. I was lucky enough that Iowa Western has like really good facilities, really good, just everything all around. It was brilliant. Only downside is I was in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, but no, I've like when we've played away games at other junior colleges, yeah, there are some that are like not as good in infrastructure and facilities and everything, but the good JUCO programs that consistently send people to the Division One level. I think even if you're not in those programs and you're able to perform against those junior colleges and able to like get some things going, good performances going, like you'd be surprised because I remember when we played, I think I forgot what they were called. I think it was Iowa Lakes. We played against them, and I ended up finding out that they had like two or three players that ended up also going to bigger schools. And you think about it, it's like, yo, but they weren't that good at the time. So how come these guys went there? And it's just based off of like their performances in the conference that we share. It's like the reality is if you're in the conference, even of a JUCO that's big, if you're able to perform in that conference, but not for the biggest school in that conference, you'll still get looks. Because at the end of the day, people in the college market are looking for guys who are going to be willing to go and play for their program. So if I were to play for a JUCO that's not as good as Iowa Western, but still be stellar against the opposition, yeah, maybe I'm not getting as big schools from D1 that are coming and poaching me, but I will also still get a big opportunity from other schools to come and be like, yo, we're here. Maybe there aren't as many people looking at you, but we believe in you, and that gives you another opportunity to go into the next school playing instead of sitting out again.
That's interesting. I didn't really think about it like that. Like you can use also the teams you've played against. Like let's say you're playing at a smaller school, but you score a goal or you get a clean sheet against the team that won the conference last year. You can kind of use that. That's true. I don't think players think about that. That's a
Yeah.
good piece of advice. And then I know obviously Jass at UNH, you struggled a little bit the first year. Like you had really good competition in goal, and then eventually you were playing every minute of every game, and you eventually got drafted. But talk to us about that moment of adversity where you want to play, maybe you expect to play, but you don't play. How do you stay motivated? How do you get over that? How do you go from that, not starting, not playing, to playing every minute, getting drafted? What was your mindset like? How did you deal with that?
Uh, yeah, it was definitely a tough time, like you finish junior college and you expect to go in and just play right away. And then obviously we had Alejandro that was like fantastic in goal. So you obviously can't just barge in and take the spot. But I was lucky to have obviously a squad like you guys. But on an individual note, I think it's just trying to find, for me personally, it was a competitive thing. It's like trying to find a competitive edge to make it's just like an elitist mindset. It's like I'm trying to prove to myself that I have to be so good that they don't ever put me in that position again. And I remember we had the next season, once Alejandro left, they had brought in a grad keeper, and I was like, in my head, I was losing it. I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm sitting on the bench again. And that's when you have to ramp up the level, and it's how consistent can you be the whole time you're down for that moment where you get that window, that opportunity to be just so much better than everyone else. And I think that's what helped me get through it, is just knowing that deep down inside, I'm going to do everything in my power to be ready and be prepared for that opportunity instead of just being bummed out on the fact that I'm currently not playing. Because it's easy to put your head down and go like, oh, I'm not going to play. Being here was a bad decision. Like, even I've said those words to myself. I was like, maybe I should have never come to UNH. Maybe I should never done that. But obviously, you look at the guys around, you look at people on your squad that are in the same situation, and you just have to pick yourself up and be like, all right, this could either sink or swim, and you just gotta swim.
Because then it happens again. You get drafted, you go to LA, and you struggle for minutes. What was different about that situation to UNH, or how did you have the same mindset? You were just like, hey, I got to grind, I got to be humble, I got to work hard. Like, how was your mindset at LA getting drafted and
So
struggling for minutes?
that one was quite different because when I got drafted, LAFC's roster had only two keepers, and one of them was injured, so they only had one available. So when I got drafted, I was hopeful that I would come in even as a number two, number three. Like I'd be happy with it. First year as a pro, I just want to get my foot in the door. And when I got there, they had signed two guys. And they were older. They had a senior keeper that was like 38 years old, super experienced, and then they had a slightly older guy that was also like pro experienced. So in my head, I was like, well, this is looking like in pre going into preseason, I was like, this is looking like a LAFC 2 situation. And once I started sitting on the bench, seeing the first team guys come down, not playing, it's frustrating. And it was kind of the same mindset. It's like I can sit there and be like, yeah, the first team guy always comes down, or you can just focus on your craft, do as good as you can, so that maybe one game, if no one comes down, you have an opportunity to perform. And luckily enough, I had a few games, but I never quite got to that point. And I think I wish I could have set my mindset sooner to that focus driven and opportunity driven mindset. Um, but yeah, it was quite humbling in the world of professional football because you have to accept it. You kind of have to accept the fact that the uppers are the ones taking decisions.
But how do you manage your ego? Because as a goalkeeper, you need to have an ego to be confident, not to be arrogant, but to be confident, to be like, all right, I'm going to be the guy, I'm the number one. And then you say you get humbled, like you look, but at the same time, you need to respect the guy
Yeah.
who's 30 who's got pro experience. How, as a person, as a character, as a goalkeeper that needs to have an ego, be confident, how does that, how do you stay humble, stay confident, and not just get bashed and think I'm shit, they're all better than me? Like, how do you manage that?
So the one thing that I like hyper fixated on was all the keepers that were older than me there. I feel like there was Maxime Crepeau, and I would look at him and be like, and I'm very close to him now. I would look at him and be like, he was much better than me at like his positioning, you know? So in my head, I was like, that comes with time, that comes with practice at this level, everything. But then the way I would keep my confidence is like, all right, what am I better than these guys at, you know? And for me, it was my shot stopping ability. And I was convinced, and I still am to this day, that on my day, when I'm able to perform at the highest level, my shot stopping ability was better than theirs. And that was how I was convincing myself. And you as a first year pro, you kind of have to put in your mind like as much information as you can take from them and apply to yourself will only make you better than your opposition. So for me, it was just that. It was like shit. Sometimes you look at them and like, damn, like he's miles off me. But then if you take a step back and like really analyze it and be like, all right, but surely there's got to be one thing that I'm better than him at. Like one of the guys that was there, Abraham Romero, unbelievable with his distribution, like ridiculous, honestly, absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of times I was thinking like I need to be like that. But the problem is you don't get drafted because you are someone that they already have. You've got something that they haven't got. And as a keeper, if you're able to really fixate on that and push that ability to the best of it, to the best of its potential, then you just gain confidence. Because once you start doing things that you know you're not the best at, you start believing that all the things you're good at aren't as good as you think they are. But in reality, that's your quality, you know?
Is there anything you would have changed about your time at LA?
Oh, yeah. I genuinely wish I was more like I don't know how to say it, more at ease with myself, you know? I think sometimes I try to do too much. When the coaches were telling me like, oh, like watch how Abraham distributes the ball, like do that. And it's like, I know I'm capable of doing it, but when you try to do something like someone who's excellent at it, and you know that you're like still short of that, and you might not even ever get there, but like you're close, but you're not there, you start beating yourself up for it. And I think if I could do and take anything back was beat myself up less for reps and for repetitions and drills that I knew were drills to make me improve and not put me down, you know?
Mm.
I would always look at a distribution drill, like if I was having a bad week on the ball and the coach gave us a distribution drill, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to improve, I'd look at it as a challenge. And I think doing that was the one thing I really wish I could take back. I wish I could take it back and go, coach is trying to make me better, not trying to hammer me down, you know? And I think that's the one thing you need to understand in the pro level is you're sharpening tools. You're not trying to be challenged, you know?
And I feel like your mindset is something that's probably set you apart from a lot of other players and goalkeepers because for a lot of goalkeepers, I guess they're always under a lot of pressure. You're always competing for a spot. And when you first joined Forge, I remember you were kind of out of the squad at the start and then you got your place and you cemented it. Like no one's ever come took your jersey. And I feel like, let's say that you went to Forge as a first year pro and maybe you were like, okay, I'm the guy, I'm going to be starting, and you hadn't had those experiences, maybe you would have kind of took your foot off the gas in practice. And I'm assuming that in practice now you know how it feels to be on the end where you're on the bench and you're not playing. So that's what motivates you. But how do you now that you've got the starting spot? How do you stay motivated and how do you stay motivated, stay humble and hungry?
You have to keep a certain mindset of how good you really want to be. You're obviously competing with the guy with you on the squad, but for me, I'm competing with every single keeper amongst the league, you know? like amongst the country. Obviously, I have aspirations of playing on the national team. I have aspirations of playing at a higher level even than now. And for me, it's just competing with those people, even people who don't know me. It's like, how can I be able to be so good that I'm competing with those guys? And it starts at training. It's like if I'm at home and I'm scrolling through my phone and I'm seeing training videos of I don't know, like Ter Stegen or whoever's or Thibaut Courtois or whatever. It's like you watch them and you see how much detail they go into, and then I think to myself, it's like I need to be just as good every single day to even have a chance of my name being put out there to then increase the level of play at which I can play.
Mm.
So it's like it doesn't become just inside the locker room or inside the league. It's just like how much bigger can you make your competition in your head? So it's for me, it's first you try to beat out the guy that's in your squad, and now it's like, all right, now I need to show the league that I'm better than all the keepers that they've got. It's like that mindset of always being in competition and really being like that number one on the field.
And I know you, and I know you're obsessed with football. Like, if you weren't a footballer, I don't know what you would be doing.
I don't know either.
How how important do you think it is to be obsessed as a footballer to make it as a pro?
I think it's super important. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, you can make it based off of talent and everything. And that's fair. Like there are guys that are like that. But I think even the pros who walk around and like, oh, I don't like this is just how I am. Like, I think even those guys deep down inside, if it's not like football obsession, it's competitive obsession. It has to be. Um, like you look at the guys that we've played with, like Yannick, like Moyes, like that have you seen? It's guys that just don't like to lose at all. Absolutely hate it. And I think if your obsession with winning grows, your obsession with the sport that you're playing grows as well. And I think that's how it is. And that goes back to what I was saying with the competition that's in your head of how much you want to be a winner will then improve like your day to day, your effort in training. It's like you start looking at details and be like, how can I be like
Mm.
so sharp and so good that I'm winning at everything that we're doing on a day to day?
Yeah, and I've been speaking on the podcast about this recently, like the negatives of being a pro. Like I was talking to Yannick about it. Obviously, he's had a little bit of an injury recently. What are the negatives of being a pro footballer? Obviously, if you're a professional footballer, people think you get loads of money, you have the hottest girlfriend, you drive the nicest car, you have all of these things. But what are the negatives that people don't think about being a pro?
I think a big one, and I think a lot of guys in the pro world can agree, is having too much free time. Because as much as it's a blessing, like you finish training, you go home, you relax, is that because you're in the sport and you're so obsessed with it, yeah, you need to learn how to like disconnect once you're done from training. But if you've had like a terrible game or like a really just absolute shocker of a session, it's so easy to say like, yeah, I'm just gonna go home and forget about it. But I guarantee you, every single person that plays this sport and that loves football knows that once they go home, there'll be a few hours that go by where they don't think about it. And then maybe something happens at home and they just think like
Is he going to
that.
pick up Saturday?
Yeah. Like you just start thinking like, oh, was that good enough?
And
Like I should
how
have.
let's say that you have a bad game, you're a goalkeeper, right? If you're a striker and you don't score, it's all right. You play the next game. If you're a goalkeeper and you do a bad back pass or you fuck up a cross or I don't know, some mistake happens, the team loses and it's because of you. How do you deal with that?
I think it's on the spot, the bounce back on the spot. It has to be. It has to be. It's if you make a mistake and that leads to a goal, and then the rest of the game you have an opportunity to not make up for it, but like display that you're capable of just recovering from it mentally, then you've got to do it. Like it's hard to do it. Obviously, it's hard to just get back in there and be at 100% after making an error, but you've got to find a way to just bounce back from it. Like there's at our position, especially, it's like there's obviously no one's there to save you. So if you do something that leads to a goal, then you've just got to be so sure of yourself that You do everything in your power not to let that happen again. But then if obviously if you can see the goal out of your circumstance, then you can't beat yourself up for that either, and you just got to carry on. It's a big mental battle, but you've got to display your best at all times.
Good.
Body language always has to be top. You've got to be contagious with the way you're carrying yourself even after a mistake.
And then, Jas, my last question for you is I talk a lot about like advice for players, and obviously you've given a lot of advice on your mindset, why you've been successful. If you went back to being 16, 18, going on trials, not making it, going to college, thinking about your pathway to become a pro, if you went back to the start of your professional journey, 15, 16, what would you have told yourself?
Ooh. I think the one thing I tell myself is to just really stay in the present, like really live what you're doing, I think a lot of times even now I still do it. Like I don't really take a look back at how far I believe I've come and how much I want to keep striving for. But I think like really live the moments playing football, it's obviously it's never gonna be there forever. It won't be there forever, but just to like really enjoy the whole process of it all, like our coach in JUCO used to say is like you should have to enjoy the process. Like as much as it sucks sometimes, like you have to enjoy it because if you're able to enjoy being in the mud and just being stuck in a spot and being just like just grinding it out, if you're able to enjoy that, then all the flowers you get when you're successful feel so much better. And that goes back to last season when we lifted the regular season shield. I did not let go of that thing, man. Like I genuinely had it in my hands the whole time because in my head I was like, wow, like the professional trophy doesn't come along that often. And to think that beginning of that season, I was still a free agent, like before signing for Forwards, like I was a free agent for 3, 4 months after LAFC, thinking like, yo, this might be it. Maybe no one would pick up the phone and take a chance on me, but to just really live through every single moment of the game, I think that's the biggest thing I would tell myself when I'm younger. Just like really enjoy everything.
Perfect. Awesome. Top advice. Guys, if you learned anything from the podcast, we'll obviously tag Jass's Instagram. I think his journey is really something that a lot of people should look up to and use as a role model. Like you don't have to go straight to Division 1. You don't even have to go straight to Division 2, Division 3. There's other pathways for you. You need to be humble, and especially if you're a goalkeeper, striker, winger, if you're not playing, don't sulk, don't complain. You know, play to your strengths, play to your abilities, keep working, and there's going to be opportunities for you. So, Jas, top man, appreciate your time. And guys, if you learned something, if you go check out Jas's Instagram, you think something's cool, send him a message, say what you learned. And yeah, Jas, appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers.